There's a moment in every journey where it feels like the ground is disappearing beneath your feet, like the very fabric of who you thought you were is unraveling thread by thread. And you stand there, heart pounding, mind racing, wondering if you've taken a wrong turn, if maybe you're falling apart. But what if you're not falling apart? What if you're falling through into the core of your becoming? Because this storm, this chaos, this ache in your chest, it's not a punishment. It's preparation. It's not failure. It's frequency refinement. You're not being broken. You're being rebuilt, not to return to who you were, but to reveal who you truly are, beneath the noise, beneath the fear, beneath the frantic reaching for control. The world may tell you that ease is the evidence of alignment, but in truth, the discomfort you're in right now is not dissonance. It is a sacred recalibration. It's your nervous system shedding old codes. It's your energy field releasing what no longer fits, like a snake sloughing its skin, like a wave breaking before it returns whole. You are not off track. You are in training. The storm doesn't mean you're lost. It means you're being asked to anchor deeper, to become the still point in the spin, to feel the chaos and stay open, to be drenched in uncertainty and still choose trust. Because this is the path of the unshakable, not those who never fall, but those who rise every time, who sit in the fire without flinching, who meet the storm with breath instead of resistance, who know that becoming isn't clean or pretty or linear. It's messy, it's wild, it's deeply devastatingly human. You don't manifest what you want, you manifest what you are. And right now, you are becoming someone who no longer needs outer certainty to feel inner peace, someone who no longer lets fear dictate their frequency, someone who holds the vision even when the evidence hasn't arrived yet. That's not failure, that's mastery. So if your world feels like it's trembling, if nothing is working the way you expected, if your heart is cracking in places you didn't even know could break, good. Let it. Let it all collapse. Let the identities that kept you small dissolve. Let the plans that were built on survival burn. Because beneath the rubble is the real you, the grounded you, the embodied you, the version of you that no longer reacts, but responds, that no longer chases, but attracts, that no longer tries to force reality to bend, but becomes the frequency that reality rearranges around. The storm is not against you, it's inside you, and it's sacred. It's the sacred undoing of who you thought you had to be in order to be safe, loved, successful. It's your body, your breath, your being saying, no more masks, no more performance, only truth, only coherence, only aligned power. So breathe here, even if it hurts, even if it feels like everything is falling apart. Because everything falling apart might just be the exact thing that allows you to finally come together. I know it's tempting to interpret the chaos as a sign you've done something wrong, that you missed the mark, that you should have figured it out by now. But the truth is, the deeper you go, the more the old world resists your becoming. Because frequency threatens form, and when you start to vibrate from a new center, everything that was built on the old one starts to shake. This is not a mistake. It's resonance correcting dissonance. It's life echoing back your new alignment by removing what no longer matches. And yes, sometimes that echo sounds like loss, like delay, like isolation. But what if those are the very signs that your signal is getting clearer? You are not stuck. You are being stripped of timelines that were tethered to survival, of patterns inherited from generations of scarcity and fear, of identities formed in reaction, not intention. This storm is not chaos. It is correction. It is coherence coming into form. And I know the mind wants something to fix, something to solve, some strategy to control the uncontrollable. But this is the space beyond control. This is where the nervous system learns to hold presence in uncertainty. This is where the body becomes the compass, not the calendar. This is where breath replaces blueprints. Feel your breath now, not the shallow one, the deep one, the one that drops you back into your body, back into the moment, back into now, where the quantum field responds not to what you think, but to what you embody. And what you embody is changing, even if you can't see it yet, even if the world around you still looks the same. Your energy has shifted, your signal has sharpened, and the field is rearranging in response. not slowly, but subtly, not visibly, but powerfully. Can you stay with it? Can you stay with yourself through the unraveling? Can you honor the invisible restructuring that is happening beneath the surface of your life? Because this is where the unshakable are forged. Not in moments of clarity, but in the tension between who you were and who you are becoming. It's in the moment you exhale when you want to fight. In the moment you soften when you want to run. In the moment you hold your own heart, instead of searching for someone else to save it. That's the miracle. That's the real shift. That's what bends timelines. Not more doing, but more remembering. Remember who you were before the world told you who to be. Remember the version of you who knew how to trust without proof, who played in the unknown, who believed in magic not because it was logical, but because it was felt. That part of you is not gone. It's just buried beneath layers of noise, and the storm is clearing them away. This is sacred erosion, not destruction, revelation. And every tear, every tremor, every tremble in your chest is a sign that your system is realigning, that your roots are going deeper, that your frequency is becoming undeniable. So don't run from the storm. Become the eye of it, the stillness in the center, the clarity in the chaos. Because when you do, the universe stops responding to your fear and starts responding to your coherence. It's strange, isn't it? How the very moments we want to escape are often the ones we were unknowingly asking for, not consciously, not with words, but with frequency, with desire, with the silent ache to be free, not just from circumstances, but from the inner cages we didn't even know we were living inside. You asked for transformation. You asked to become the version of you who no longer lives in reaction, who no longer negotiates her worth with reality, who no longer shrinks in the face of uncertainty. And the moment you asked, not with your lips, but with your life, the field responded, not with ease, but with invitation, not with proof, but with pressure. Because pressure is what reveals what's real. Pressure is what cracks the false identities, the protective strategies, the illusion that safety lives outside of you. You're not being punished. You're being purified of noise, of need, of the frantic search for something out there to make you feel whole in here. Wholeness isn't something you earn, it's something you remember, and the storm is helping you remember. Every time it takes away a distraction, every time it breaks a plan, every time it brings you to your knees with nothing to hold but your own breath, it's not breaking you, it's bringing you back to your body, back to presence, back to the unshakable truth that you are the field, you are the frequency, you are the alignment you've been waiting for, and yes, it's uncomfortable. Growth often is. Because the body holds on to the familiar, even when it hurts. The mind clings to what it understands, even when it limits. But your soul is louder now. Your coherence is growing stronger. And what once felt like comfort, now feels like a cage. That's not a sign to retreat. That's a signal to expand. You're being asked to embody a new normal, one where stillness is power, where sensitivity is strength, where your nervous system is no longer wired for survival, but attuned to sovereignty. You don't need to prove your worth through struggle. You don't need to micromanage the timing of your life. You don't need to chase the thing that's already on its way. You only need to stay in signal, stay in softness, stay in self, not the performative self, the present self, the grounded, breathing, feeling self. That's who magnetizes. That's who collapses timelines. That's who receives not by asking, but by becoming. You don't manifest the life you want by perfecting your vision board. You manifest by becoming the version of you who no longer needs the vision to feel the vibration, who no longer defers joy, who no longer postpones presence, who feels the frequency first and lets the form follow. And right now, you're becoming that. Right now, in the middle of the mess, in the thick of the storm, in the silence between what was and what will be, you are becoming unshakable. Not because you're avoiding the pain, but because you're letting it refine you. Not because you figured it all out, but because you've surrendered to the part of you that already knows. So stay here. Stay with your breath. Stay with your body. Because the storm is not your enemy. It's your ally. It's not testing your strength. It's revealing it. There's a sacred intelligence in the timing of the storm. It never comes when you feel ready. It comes when your soul knows it's time to grow, when the comfort has calcified into a shell, when the old ways of being have run out of resonance, When the version of you that once fit so neatly into the world starts to feel like a costume, tight, artificial, no longer breathable. And so the storm arrives, not as chaos, but as clarity, not as a problem, but as a portal, a passage into embodiment, into the lived experience of your power. Because knowing your truth isn't the same as living it. Speaking your desires isn't the same as becoming the match for them. And the storm, though wild and unwelcome, doesn't just show you who you are. It initiates you into who you're meant to be. This is the in-between, where what once held you no longer fits, and what's coming hasn't fully arrived, where your inner world is shifting faster than your outer one can reflect. It can feel lonely here, unseen, like you're out of sync with the world around you. But you are not out of sync. You are ahead of schedule. You are resonating at a frequency that reality is still catching up to. Don't mistake the lag for lack. The field is responding, just not always in the language your mind understands. Sometimes it responds in stillness, in pause, in sacred space where nothing moves so everything can change. Sometimes it responds by clearing what clutters your signal, relationships, routines, roles you thought were required for your worth. This stripping is not loss. It's liberation. It's the breath before the bloom, the silence before the shift, the exhale before the next expansion. And here, in this suspended space, you are being asked to trust without evidence, to rest in the discomfort without needing it to resolve, to hold the vision in your cells, even when your senses don't yet reflect it. Because the true power isn't in what you can create through effort. It's in what you can allow through alignment, not with force, but with frequency, not from effort, from essence. That essence, your deepest self, your clearest signal, is what the storm is helping you remember. And every time you return to your body instead of escaping into thought, every time you choose to feel rather than fix, every time you soften instead of strive, you reinforce the reality that's forming around you. One of coherence, one of clarity, one of quiet power. This is the work, not the outer hustle, but the inner holding. Not managing the world, but mastering your response to it. Not chasing safety, but becoming the place where safety lives. So if it feels like life is asking more of you than ever before, it is, because you are becoming someone who can hold more light, more power, more truth. Not through tightening, but through trusting. Not by grasping, but by grounding. You are not failing. You are forming. You are not lost. You are being led. And even if your mind can't yet make sense of it, your soul already knows. This storm isn't breaking you. It's building the container strong enough to hold what you asked for. I used to think strength looked like certainty, like always knowing, like moving forward without fear. But now I see it differently. Now I know that true strength is softness in the face of the unknown. It's choosing presence when panic is easier. It's holding your center when the winds of your world are pulling you in every direction. The storm, in all its intensity, is not asking you to fix it. It's asking you to feel it, to stop bracing, to stop predicting, to stop rehearsing how it all might go wrong, and instead, to drop in, to feel the rain on your skin, the thunder in your chest, the electricity of transformation humming just beneath the surface of what seems like chaos. This is not the breakdown, it's the breakthrough, disguised, not the end, but the edge of your next beginning. And I know, the fear still flares, the old patterns still whisper, the nervous system still tightens with the memory of what went wrong before. But you are not that past self. You are no longer living from those versions. You are no longer coded for collapse. You are remembering how to regulate from within, how to breathe before reacting, how to recognize that every trigger is just a trailhead, leading back to the parts of you that are still asking to feel safe. Safety isn't something you find, it's something you create, moment by moment, breath by breath, in the way you choose to meet yourself in the storm, with compassion, with curiosity, with a steady hand on your own heart, whispering, "We're okay." Even now, especially now. And as you do, something subtle begins to shift. The noise gets quieter. The ache feels lighter. The future, still unclear, somehow doesn't feel so threatening. Because you've made contact with the part of you that's always been whole. The still point, the silent witness, the frequency beneath the fear. That's the real power. Not controlling outcomes, but commanding energy. Not by force, but by coherence. You don't need to know how it's all going to unfold. You only need to become the version of you who can meet whatever does, with grace, with grounding, with a resonance so steady it ripples through the field like a beacon. And in that resonance, the field responds. Slowly at first, then all at once. Opportunities appear, support arrives, synchronicities stack, and suddenly, the storm that once felt like it would consume you becomes the very force that delivered you to a deeper trust, to a truer self, to a timeline so aligned you could never have strategized your way into it. So when the mind doubts, let the body speak. When the fear screams, let the breath steady. When the storm surges, let your presence be the anchor. You are not here to control the weather. You are here to become the sky, vast, holding, untouched. And the more you become that, the more reality reshapes around you. Not because you forced it to, but because you remembered. You are the field. You are the frequency. You are the storm and the stillness, the question and the answer, the becoming and the already arrived. There's a moment in the storm where everything goes quiet. Not because the chaos has ended, but because you've stopped resisting it. And in that silence, something opens, something ancient, something soft, a remembering that you were never meant to fight the current, only to learn how to float. Floating doesn't mean giving up. It means letting go of the illusion that struggle equals strength. It means realizing that control was never safety. It was tension wearing a mask. And now, as that mask begins to slip, as the edges of your old identity blur, you are not disappearing. You are dissolving into something more true. You're no longer trying to protect the self that was built from fear. You're allowing that self to rest, to exhale, to finally stop holding everything together. Because something deeper has taken over. Something wiser than your mind, softer than your strategy. It's the intelligence of your being, the clarity of your coherence, the steady pulse of who you've always been beneath the noise. This is the shift. Not a change in circumstance, but a change in state. A reorientation to self, a homecoming. And the more you anchor here, in the body, in the breath, in the truth that doesn't need explanation, the more the outer world begins to align not with your effort, but with your energy. Energy doesn't lie. It doesn't argue. It doesn't perform. It simply is. And when yours becomes steady, sure, sovereign, even in the midst of uncertainty, life bends. Not because you pushed it, but because you became a gravitational field. A center of gravity so coherent that reality has no choice but to reconfigure around it. This is what it means to be unshakable. Not immune to emotion, but uninfluenced by the external in a way that pulls you off your truth. You still feel it all, but you don't drown. You let the waves move through. You let the tears fall clean. You let the fear rise and soften without letting it make your choices. And slowly, gently, you start to trust the storm. Not because it feels good, but because it's refining you. It's teaching you how to hold resonance in the rupture. How to be the medicine your younger self never had. How to become a space of safety so complete that even your deepest pain feels welcome. That's alignment. That's embodiment. That's the frequency of real manifestation, where you don't chase what you want, you become a match for it. You live as if it's already true, not in fantasy, but in felt sense. And then, without warning, life begins to reflect that back. Not always how you expected, but always in resonance. So let the storm do its work. Let it strip what's no longer true. Let it soften what's been hard for too long. Let it show you that the parts of you that tremble aren't weak. They're wise. They're the ones waking up. They're the ones leading you back to yourself. And when the storm passes, and it will, you won't be who you were. You'll be clearer, calmer, more you than you've ever been. Because the storm didn't break you. It broke what was never yours to carry. And what remains is the most magnetic thing of all. You, in your truth. You, in your signal. You, unshakable. It's in the aftermath that you begin to see what the storm revealed. Not just what it took, but what it gave. It gave you back to yourself. It gave you permission to feel fully, to collapse gently, to rise slowly. It gave you the clarity that can only come when all the noise has been stripped away. And standing there, in the quiet wreckage of who you once were, you realize you're not empty. You're spacious. You're not broken. You're bare. And in that bareness lives the seed of everything you were always meant to become. This is where embodiment begins. Not when things are perfect, but when you choose to inhabit your truth anyway. When you show up in your softness, not needing to be fixed. When your body becomes more than just a vessel, it becomes the signal, the living broadcast of your frequency, the place where your becoming takes shape in breath, in tone, in presence. You've stopped performing alignment. You're living it now, not through constant positivity or polished affirmations, but through resonance, through nervous system safety, through grounded felt truth. You walk slower, you listen deeper, you don't rush the timeline anymore. You trust its intelligence. Because you've seen what rushing costs. You've seen what's born when you finally pause. Pause long enough to feel the miracle in the mundane, the grace in the grief, the medicine in the mess. That's when life starts to mirror back something different, something more stable, more attuned, more accurate to the frequency you now hold. People begin to respond to your presence, not your performance. Opportunities come not because you sought them, but because they were always aligned with your signal. They just couldn't find you through the static. Now, with your channel clear, life finds you faster. Effort becomes art. Receiving becomes your rhythm. You've stopped trying to be unshakable. You've become it, by letting yourself shake, by letting yourself be seen in your undoing, by loving the version of you that had to hold it all together, and gently showing her that she doesn't have to anymore. This is the quiet miracle. Not the flashy manifestation, but the inner mastery, the peace that hums through your bones when you know who you are, the magnetism that flows when your energy no longer leaks through self-doubt and overthinking, the love that lives in your gaze because you've made peace with the storm, and therefore with yourself. You don't need the world to confirm your arrival. You feel it in your breath, in your stillness, in the way your feet touch the ground like they belong. You don't manifest from need anymore. You manifest from knowing, from embodiment, from the frequency of already. And in that frequency, everything changes. Time bends, doors open, paths reveal themselves that weren't visible when you were hustling for your worth. Because now, you're not reaching for life, you're resonating with it. That resonance is the true signal, and the world, finally, begins to echo back the truth you now hold in your cells. You are not failing. You are free. And now, here you are, not at the end, but at the threshold of a new way of being, a new kind of strength, a deeper truth, one that doesn't need the storm to subside in order to feel safe, one that doesn't demand the outcome in order to trust the process, one that knows, this, right here, is enough. You've become the stillness you used to chase, the calm you used to crave. Not because life stopped being life, but because you stopped abandoning yourself inside of it. You learned how to hold your center while the world shifted, how to soften without shrinking, how to listen without losing your own voice in the noise. This is not the kind of unshakable that's hard and closed. It's the kind that's open and rooted. It's the kind that can feel everything, grief, joy, rage, hope, without being pulled out of alignment, because alignment is no longer a concept. It's a state of being. It lives in your nervous system now, in the way your breath moves, in the way your presence speaks before you do. You no longer need to convince life to meet you. You've become the invitation, the field, the frequency, the embodied yes to everything your heart has ever whispered. And as that yes radiates, life responds not just with gifts, but with growth, not just with ease, but with evolution, and you welcome it all. Because you know now, nothing is wasted. Not the silence, not the struggle, not even the moments you wanted to give up. Every tremble was a teaching. Every ache was an opening. Every breakdown was a back door to your own becoming. You've stopped chasing the miracle. You've become it. You've stopped trying to control the quantum. You've started to embody it. In your walk, in your words, in the way you don't need to force a single thing anymore, because you finally trust your frequency to do the work. And so you live differently. You listen more. You rush less. You hold space for others without losing yourself. You create from overflow, not obligation. You move like someone who knows they're supported, not just by the people around them, but by life itself, by the unseen currents that move in rhythm with your resonance. You no longer pray for the storm to pass. You thank it. You no longer run from the discomfort. You meet it with breath, with presence, with grace. Because the storm didn't make you fragile. It revealed you were forged from something far more enduring, far more luminous, far more alive. So let the world spin. Let the waves rise. Let uncertainty do what it does. You will not be moved. Not because you're numb, but because you are deeply, fiercely present. You know now, the storm wasn't the enemy. It was the mirror, and it showed you who you are. Not failing, becoming unshakable.